So I'm going to start this video with the torque specs because what we're doing is changing the valve cover today, and these all have a torque spec of 79 inch-pounds. Don't confuse it with foot-pounds, they're 79 inch-pounds. I noticed a lot of people, I read up a little bit on this before I'm doing it, and a lot of people are doing foot-pounds, which for these little bolts, you are either going to snap them right off or you're going to strip it inside of your motor. So inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. Everyone, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in again. If you followed along with the channel, you know that this car had a check engine light before. We hooked up a code scanner to it and erased them. Ended up coming back, so obviously it was something. I thought because the car sat for so long, maybe it was just from sitting. But what it is if you look here, we need a new valve cover. I don't know if you guys can see it, but all down here, you can tell she's been leaking for a while. It's all ugly here around the cap for the fill, and if you turn the engine on, this little hole here, because what's in here is like a little rubber valve kind of thing, really thin, they wear out, and when you turn the vehicle on, this is spewing out air. So if you turn your car on, this little cover just sits on here, pull that off, it's just a couple little clips, and put your finger here. If it's blasting like a pressure washer out with air, you know that is most likely your problem. So we're going to replace this today. If it's not our problem, oh well, this obviously needs to be redone anyway because it's leaking everywhere. So one more problem down and then we can keep going. But to start this video off, we're going to just go through some of the tools that we need. For these, you can see it's already loose. You need a Torx 30-bit. And then for these, they're actually specialty bolts and you need special sockets for that. And what those sockets are, in our case anyway, is this e-Torx bit. It's 10, and what it is an inverted Torx bit basically. You can see it's made like the Torx sockets, or Torx bits, sorry, just opposite way. And that is for these bolts. You can see, come on there, hooks on, you can get this out. This is actually our new piece. I got it off of Amazon, 70 bucks, shipped here within a day. This particular one comes with its own bolts. The only thing you got to change over after is your oil fill cap, obviously. And there's one bracket here to hold some wiring that's got to be swapped over. And a nice thing with this one is it's also got the new gasket already in place. Just make sure it's not loose anywhere. Snug all up in there before you get it going. And the last thing you'll need is this, some sealant, because there's a couple spots on here where the timing chain is that you have to put sealant in just because there's more pressure flowing right there. If you don't put this on, it will leak right away. You'll have to take it all back off, clean it up, go get some of this, fill it in, put it back on, and you should be good to go. All right, now to get this started, you can see I already got it a little bit loose. Like I said, take the cover off. This you want to undo first. You just push on this little space here, get a little screwdriver or something, push down, and this orange clip pulls out. Then you should be able to wiggle that off. You'll need two hands, especially because I loosened this off so it's all wobbly. You can see I got these two loose. These are your Torx 30-bit. That is what you'll need that for. Loosen those two, get that off. If you can't get this off, it does have enough little bit of a wiggle room here. Just pull this out, set it over here. But if you can get it off, just to get it out of the way of everything, take that out, move it over. Then the next thing you got to do is all your wiring for wires and hoses and all this junk around here has to all come off and get out of the way. So we'll do that first. All right, so we have got her off, and as you can see, this gasket actually stayed behind. It is rock hard and it's stuck on there. So also, if you look in there where your spark plug is full of oil. So I'm gonna have to clean all this up, get the old gasket off, make sure it's nice and smooth, ready for the next one. but I'm gonna say, obviously by the looks of this thing, this is most likely what our issue was. So I did have to get I have a plastic pry tool to get this thing popped up, just because it was so stuck it wouldn't come right off. But like I said, get it off. We'll clean up all the oil around here, get your cloth, make it nice and good, nice and clean. Anything that's stuck, if you have to get a little razor blade or something and scrape it off, make sure you do that, because if you leave any of this behind, once the new one goes on, it's just going to cause a leak right away anyways, and you'll have to start all over. Alright, so got her cleaned up as best as we could. You can see this thing came off in about 100 different little pieces. It was coming out in chunks like this, got another little chunk there. And it's supposed to be flexible, not so stiff, but most of this thing is hard as a rock. And you can just hear it when it hits the ground. It's more like a rock than a piece of rubber. So definitely was the issue. Part of it was even cracked already. And surprise, surprise, it was right here. So that's what filled up the spark plug with oil. So I'm gonna have to clean that out a little bit better. You can see I should probably change the spark plugs, but I'm not doing that right now because I don't have them. But it's easy enough to do later. As long as we get this sealed up, you don't have to worry about it. So next step, you can see there's a little space right here, and same up there in the dark. That is where your goop will go. Reason being is because that is a little gap here. So this is actually cleaned off, that's just burnt right on there. So put more goop there, fills in that crack. And also, like I said, your timing chain is right here, so when this is running, it's spitting oil all over the place. And more pressure around here between that and no goop will for sure leak. So make sure you put a good dab here and a good dab there. And then obviously before you put this on, this specific one came with the gasket already installed, so just go around and inspect it. But if you're putting the gasket in yourself, make sure it's all snug in place. You don't want this to be one way or the other. It has to be pretty much dead on, otherwise you're going to leak elsewhere. Other thing, worst case, if you have something on there that you can't get off, or it's got a little bit of a scratch or anything like that, don't hesitate to put a little more goop wherever there might be any sort of scratch or indent or anything like that. It's not going to hurt anything. Just don't put a lot, because obviously you don't want anything getting sucked into here. And if that stuff spreads out, dries and falls in here, you got bigger issues than just changing out this valve cover. As well as if your gasket was like mine and you had to break little pieces off everywhere, break it outwards, because if that falls in there, we're not Ford mechanics here. We don't drop stuff in the engines. So fling it outwards, just less stuff in there, the better obviously. You don't want anything inside, or this is going to be a whole waste of your time. And that is all you need. You can see I put a little dab there, little dab there. Once the valve cover goes on, it's obviously going to squish and spread out a little bit, so you don't have to worry about it. Tiny little bits, not overloading this stuff, because like I said, you don't want any extra getting on the inside. So now that this is done, you can grab the other valve cover, drop it on here, make sure it's all nice and smooth, start tightening them down a little bit. Alright, so you can see it's on. Now there is a specific sequence for this. I will post a picture up here if I can find it. Otherwise, just Google. This is specifically a 2011 Chevy Cruze. Just Google whatever car you have, valve cover, torque sequence, and it will come up. It'll be in the pictures. And what I've done so far is, because this sealant that I used for those two spots says give it an hour, doesn't want you to torque it right down, says give it an hour to harden a little bit before you put it to torque. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in the torque sequence just to get these all started and half tight, just so it's on there, it's in the right spot. Then I can get all these hoses and stuff put back in the right place. And then after an hour, I will come back and I'll tighten the whole sequence to 79 inch-pounds, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Not foot-pounds, unless you want to break all these off and start from square one. That'll be inch-pounds. So leave it for an hour. You can see the goop squirted out just a little bit. That is exactly what you're looking for, so you know it filled that crack there. Same with on that side. So like I said, tighten her down just snug, wait your hour or whatever your instructions are with the sealant, and then you can torque it down to spec and start getting the rest put back together. And there you go, guys. That's all you got to do. Make sure you torque it around the valve cover properly. 79 inch-pounds, that works out to like under 7 foot-pounds, so not very tight. If you don't have a torque wrench or something, snug them down, give them an extra little bit, and it won't be perfect, but it'll be close enough to work. But obviously you don't want to hulk these things because these are tiny little bolts and they're easy to strip and they're easy to break. So either way, you're going to be hooped if you do that. Get it all back together, put your coils back in, make sure if you're full of oil, clean out around the spark plug, plug it back in, clip that orange clip back in because that's what holds this on. This is your cover, just clips back over top. Get all your wires back on. This is the little clamp I was saying we have to transfer over to the new one. It just sits on here. It's nothing really special, just clips on. Same with these two, they just clip back on to hold all the hosing and shit in place. So that's it. Swap your cap back over. Some of these you can get off of Amazon, come with a new cap as well. Mine did not, so put the old one back on or go buy a new one if you want. That's all you need. Dip stick back in and let her dry. Like I said, it's been an hour, so I torqued it down. I'll let it sit for a little bit, fire it up, make sure you have no crazy leaks anywhere, and you should be all set to go. So that'll do it for this video, guys. Hopefully if you have this type of vehicle or this type of engine, this helped you out. And a lot of them do. I actually was talking to my mechanic friend, told him the engine light was on, and he went, haha, probably a valve cover. And it was funny because that same morning I ordered the valve cover for this thing. So once we fire it up, let it run for a bit. If the engine light doesn't go off, I'll clear it. And then if it comes back on, we know this wasn't the cause of the engine light. But obviously you guys could see in the video that it was a major issue anyways. So hopefully this fixed it up. If this helped you out, drop a subscribe, drop a like. Let me know if you got any other problems. And hopefully we catch you guys in another video. Thanks for watching, everybody.